Thank you very much. I will speak about an aspect of the Indus civilization viewed from the so-called Dillman culture in the western end of the Persian Gulf, where I have been working for the last 10 years trying to understand connections between that part of the world and this part of the world. Specifically, I have been interested in trying to understand how the Dillman culture adopted the writing system here from the Indus civilization, adopted the metric system, the system of weights, and other technologies of administration from this advanced culture into a less advanced culture. Um, Specifically, this has given us a chance to look at a way how the writing system, which was used, of course, here for the languages of the Indus Valley, in the Western Gulf, probably was used for the local language, which I have argued to be the Amorite language, which is an ancestor of modern Arabic, ancient Aramaic, and Hebrew. As you see here, this is the extent of the Dillman culture. It looks like a vast area, but probably the entire living population of the Dillman culture at any one time was not much larger than the population of the city of Mohenjo-Daro. So a much, much smaller entity in every respect. Um, at the end of the heydays of Mohenjo-Daro and the Indus civilizations, the Dillman culture started to emerge as a state, and with its center on Bahrain Island, it became a kingdom which for a brief period of 300 years monopolized copper trade between Oman, the Indus Valley, and Babylonia in the west. This gave the local area an economic surplus, which among others by the royal dynasty was invested in huge monumental tombs for its kings, dating from 2000 to 1700 BC. These kings were entombed in an enormous mound cemetery with 11,100 burial mounds, which arguably makes it the largest of its kind in the world. In this cemetery, in some of the latest royal tombs, we've more recently discovered inscriptions on stone vessels given as burial gifts to the entombed kings, which mentioned one of the kings by name. His Amorite name was Yakli El, and it also mentioned his father, who was Rimmon. And this confirms a long-standing hypothesis that the people of Oman and the people of Dillman were Amorite speakers and this Semitic dialect. And I'll just skip quickly through this. This is just arguments. These Amorites, at this time when things were beginning to change in Mohenjo-Daro and the Indus Valley, had started conquering northern Egypt. They established, not as a unified people, but more as an identity and as a tribal confederation of a very loose nature, a network of trade which spanned from intermarrying with princesses and royalty of Nubia in Eastern Africa to at least having a presence among the elites of Dillman from 2100 and in present-day Oman Peninsula from going back to the era of Sargon of Akkad in the late 3rd millennium. Given the archaeologically known trade routes at this era, the network that they established spanned a staggering 5,000 kilometers from Mohenjo-Daro and Gujarat in the east and all the way to Nubia in the southwest. This all falls together with a period of change in Middle Asia, which affected many of the civilizations which had emerged here across the 3rd millennium. But Dillman, in this process, adapted, as I mentioned, the Indus technology of weights, and more specifically for understanding the script, they also adopted their own version of the Indus Seal developed here at Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, a circular version using the script signs and the shape of the seal was the only thing to begin with that distinguished these seals. Later they developed their own versions. We can tell from the inscriptions known from the seals of this particular very rare Western Indus variant that they probably were written in another language. We cannot still read them, but with the new information about the Amorite connection, we may tentatively conclude that they were written in a Semitic dialect. One of the things that occur abnormally infrequently is a special twin sign, which consists of two human figures standing next to each other. This twin sign was given particular emphasis and may have carried the meaning of some kind of family union. As you see here, I've marked out the high occurrence of this particular sign. It also occurs as a symbol on tombs in the illiterate Bronze Age cultures of the Oman Peninsula. And I've gone into various details which I shall not go into here about the about how this develops over time. But I think I'll stop with this. But just to conclude, probably the technologies of this area were embraced by a very early Semitic population in the Persian Gulf. I thank you.